What a pick and mix bag of pay-per-view this was. I'm John Ritlin with a retro review of WWE Judgment Day 2002. It featured Hogan and Undertaker in a main event when their matches in 1991 were not any good. So let's see how good this one was. If you've seen this pay-per-view, you may think it was better than I thought it was. I actually thought a lot of it was pretty good. There were some throwaway matches, some angle matches, but there was a match that actually featured Kurt Angle and then had the Angle continue backstage for a while. It actually had a lot of good shit. The problem is that main event, sweet Jesus, that main event. So we start off with the girls for Undertaker's Judgment Day 2000 return. As I lay me down to sleep, pray my soul's mine to keep etc., etc. Creepy girls are creepy. So, I missed cool pay-per-view sets. By the way, the background was the gallows, complete with, nooses and everything. I want you to keep that in mind for a backstage segment I'm going to talk about here in a bit. Eddie versus RVD for the Intercontinental Championship. They face off at Backlash. They would face off in a ladder match on Raw a little bit later, and this was pretty goddamn good. It was Eddie Guerrero having conquered his demons. He was clean. He was back there, and RVD, when motivated, could actually put on some pretty damn good matches. And this was great stuff with RVD focusing on Eddie's back, Eddie focusing on grounding RVD, so he doesn't do his high-flying shit, though Eddie could definitely do plenty of high-flying shit on his own. And it was good stuff. We have both Frog Splashes missed because they're both the King of the Frog Splash or King and Prince of the Frog Splash, depending on which one you prefer. And Eddie would get a backslide with his feet on the ropes and get the victory. So he retains the Intercontinental Championship until he would lose it in that ladder match where a fan interfered. And I hope that fan got freaking crowned and destroyed in jail for running in on a wrestling show. That piece of shit. So we then get Devon, Reverend Devon, with Deacon Batista. Yes, Batista carrying the big old metal lunchbox thingy with him. Stacy in leather, so cue the fanfic right here. And Prophet Vince, as Devon called him. They're leading a prayer that Stacy will get the title from Trish, that Vixen Trish Stratus, and that Bubba will not show up, according to Devon. Well, guess what happens? Trish has Bubba in her corner because Bubba shows up. And then Devon and Deacon Batista are in Stacy's corner. This match wasn't bad, but Stacy was never really meant to be a wrestler. I will give her credit, though. She was a great athlete and could do some shit, but even she knew that she should not have been champion and even refused to have a championship run at one point, reportedly, because there were more deserving women. And Stacy deserves credit for that. She knew what her role was, and she actually was pretty good at it. She could do some athletic shit. She had a cheerleading background, a dance background, and could do some stuff. The problem is WWE wasn't going to feature her as doing anything more than acting sexy, doing the dances, and doing the spin kick stuff. And she could do some shit, but the whole point is it was right to keep the title on Trish. They did that with all the smoke and mirrors. Deacon Batista even power slamming, or even slamming Trish at one point safely. And then Running Bulldog, Stratisfaction 4-3. And then we get more of Devon and Bubba having a battle and everything, and Bubba keeps trying to fight against the numbers, but eventually gets put through a table. This took a little bit longer than it needed to. We then get Flair saying he will take care of Stone Cold, and says Vince McMahon was right. You can't trust Austin. Easy for me to say. So, do we get that match next? Nope. We get Brock and Paul Heyman versus the Hardy Boys. The story was when Heyman was trying to be on the offensive, the Hardys would beat the shit out of him, and they hit and run with Brock. They would eventually get Heyman in the ring, hit poetry in motion, and do some stuff, but Brock would eventually just dominate, hit the F5, tag Heyman. Heyman would get the victory over Jeff Hardy. Still not the most embarrassing thing that Jeff Hardy did in a wrestling ring. That would come about, just under 9 years later. But Heyman got the victory, and it told the story of Brock and Heyman continuing their alliance. So, okay, it solved it solved the problem of, how do we get Brock on a pay-per-view and not have him look stupid? I know, we have Heyman take the victory. That is what it is. So then we get Booker in NWO gear, in black and white gear, by the way, because this is when WWE had the version of the NWO and just was throwing people in there. Booker was in the NWO, and they had him around that background with the gallows. The image of a black man around the gallows. I mean, Michael Hayes must have booked this shit. He was hanging around in the background, and they had him be there. He was right there and hanging around. Yes, I intentionally did that because that is what WWE was trying to imply. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but just the image. Seriously, what the fuck was this? It was ridiculous. Also, there's some lady that hits on him and says, "Hey, come back to my hotel room." And then we get to see that later. Austin versus Ric Flair and Big Show. it wasn't very good because this is when Austin didn't have his head in the game. He was going through a lot of stuff, and Ric Flair and the Big Show, a very unlikely team. Big Show was in the NWO, the NW Show, if you will. This was one of the many times he was in the NWO. This run somehow was worse than his other runs in the NWO in WCW after his initial run, and then getting out of there, and then going back in there. They never knew how to book Big Show early on in his career, or later in his career. He was an oddly booked giant. So, numbers game and all that shit. There was a chop fest with Flair. There was a lot of number game stuff. Would Charles Robinson betray Austin? Would he align with Ric Flair as he is, Little Nate? Nope. Stunners for all, including for X-Pac, I believe, who tried running in the ring, and then Ric Flair gets pinned. Cool. Okay, Austin wins. And then would walk out of the company soon after. Edge versus Angle, hair versus hair match. They always had good matches. This was well wrestled. Very good stuff. I really enjoyed the story of like Angle trying to do everything he could to win because he was going to take Edge's luscious locks and he was going to chop them off and everything. But it was obvious that Angle was going to lose because Angle had been balding since before he got to WWE. But then you definitely could see it by 2001 and especially by that point in 2002. He was just starting to lose it, and the whole idea was, okay, we're going to have Angle try everything. There's a ref bump. He hits a nice spear, a very nice tackle, and hits the Angle slam, and gets only a 2 count. He's frustrated and everything, and then Edge eventually, gets out of the ankle lock, gets an inside cradle, 1, 2, 3, and Edge wins. And Angle tries attacking him, and tries taking him to the chair to cut off his hair. He's like, okay, I may have lost, but I'm going to cut off Edge's hair. That doesn't work. And then he runs away instead of getting his head shaved. This factors in a little bit later. As we get Booker and that very attractive lady in a hotel room. They do it with the lights off, so to speak. And then Booker says something else. And Goldust says, I want you to leave the NWO. And then Goldust is in bed with him. This is the weirdest Oreo I have ever seen. So, yeah, that's what happened. I don't know why. I don't know why they needed to show Booker's ass as he was running out of the hotel room, but whatever. Cool, okay, he does what he does. This will lead to Goldust and Booker having an alliance. And then Jericho versus Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match. This match was very good. It was one of the rare good matches that Jericho and Triple H would have in 2002 or beyond. Because their match at Mania 18 was not very good. This made up for it. It was a very good Hell in a Cell match with some nice weaponry, some chair shots, some ladders. Both men bled, of course they did. Unfortunately, this would spell the end of Tim White's full-time refereeing career as he would get run into the, he would, take a bump off the apron, not onto the apron because that is the hardest part of the ring, but he hit the second hardest, piece there, even though it wasn't on the ring, it was right outside. He hit the Hell in a Cell and hurt his shoulder. It didn't look like it was the worst bump they took, but apparently he did separate his shoulder and it cost him the rest of his refereeing career. Hence why they started doing the whole Tim White things where he tried offing himself. Mr. White, that's not wise. This was stuff they actually put on their WWE.com, streaming service thing that they did. They had Josh Matthews, that piece of shit hosting. That was a great idea. No, it wasn't. It was a terrible idea. So the whole reason for this match was just to blow up the Jericho Triple H feud, and it ended with a pedigree on the roof. 1, 2, 3. Very dangerous to do. I don't know why the referee didn't just look up and count against the wall and count to 3. I don't know why he climbed up there, but I believe it was referee Mike Chioda, and he has no fear. So cool. All right, we get that match. Very good Hell in a Cell match. Very underappreciated. They go a little bit long, but they told a good goddamn story. We then get Edge chasing after Angle backstage. Does he get him? He doesn't get him yet. We get Maven drinking with Tori. Maven's eyebrows needed 1 drink for each. That's mean, but also proves that Maven's eyebrows are more over than he ever was. Billy and Chuck versus Rikishi and a mystery partner. It's Rico, the stylist that's there. Not the stylist, that you use on your phone, but the stylist. And he is the reluctant partner of Rikishi to face Billy and Chuck, who are the tag team champions. This was a joke. Rikishi seemed to get the wind knocked out of him or seemed to get a concussion or something because he wasn't around very long. I think he got hurt. And had to take a little bit of time off. But him and Rico win the tag team championships. No, really, an unlikely tag team winning the tag team championships in WWE. The only time they've ever done that. Oh, wait, they're still doing it even to this day, and it's fucking rotten. Cool. That's a bit of a cool down match. I could have been saved for SmackDown. That shouldn't have even been allowed on pay-per-view. We then get Edge looking for Angle. They brawl, and it looks like Edge is going to get his head shaved. Oh, no. Angle gets locked in a sleeper hold. Oh, no. Angle's going out. He's going to curb his enthusiasm and his blood flow and his breathing ability, and he gets knocked out and then gets his head shaved. And it's hilarious because Angle, maybe not the sleeper rolls up, but he gets, knocked out, gets his head shaved. He's all upset, and Edge says, now the fans are going to chant instead of, you suck, you're bald. And then Angle would actually come out with the headgear, with the poofy hair on and everything. It's like he stole it off of Rick Steiner. Actually, it was a callback to when Buddy Roberts of the Fabulous Freebirds did that, when Buddy Roberts had a feud with Iceman King Parsons, and they did the Freebird cream thing where it actually got put on Buddy's head, and Buddy got, his hair fried and everything, and will wear the gear with the hair and everything, and would eventually get, bald. It would come out that he was bald, even though we knew he was because we saw it happen. But it was a nice callback. At least that's the callback I got. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did you guys get that callback, or did you get another one? Because I thought it was pretty cool what Kurt did. And actually, I believe Hayes may have booked that, because Hayes would do anything to get the Freebirds back on TV. To be fair, Buddy Roberts was a hell of a worker. So that was some pretty good stuff. What wasn't good is The Undertaker and Hogan, undisputed championship match. This was absolute shit. This is absolute shit. Let me just throw some more shit in the air here and everything. This was just the fucking worst. Seriously, this was so fucking bad. Got paper all over my lap. By the way, much more interesting than this match. They didn't have good matches in '91, and nothing good in like any kind of subsequent years. Even though I think they only wrestled on some house shows in '92, and now 11 years later, or not even 11 years later, barely just over a decade later, where they're going to have, Hogan, who has no knees left. He should have quit after his match with Rock, even though he wouldn't have gotten nearly as much money, and we wouldn't have gotten Shawn Michaels selling like a goddamn, like Octopus in the Washing Machine, I believe it was called, by What Culture, if I recall correctly, where, Michaels just oversold everything in SummerSlam 05, but we got Hulk Hogan as the Undisputed Champion against Undertaker, and this was Smoke and Mirrors the musical, thankfully with no music, except dubbed over music for Hulk Hogan's, Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, yet they allowed Rob Zombie's music to be, played for Edge. So I guess Rob Zombie was willing to negotiate, and the estate of Jimi Hendrix said, no, we need more money, and says, hey, Hogan, that cool theme you have, yeah, it's getting dubbed over, because we just do not give a shit about, paying enough money for that music. This match started with a bunch of belt whipping, the weight belt whipping, and before the match even got going, and then it was slow, it was plodding, it was bad. Hogan couldn't move. Vince came out to cause a distraction. We get chair shots. We get that choke slam where it looked like Hogan barely got off the ground. Undertaker would have been better off trying to choke slam a Hogan impersonator, because that person would have gotten more height. Now, I get it. Hogan's back was destroyed and a whole bunch of other stuff, but they should have not attempted that spot. They should have just had Hogan get hit with a chair on the back, and then Undertaker should have won. And they should have done that, because that chokeslam, that's how he won. That chokeslam wouldn't even win in like some, garbage wrestling federation or whatever. That's just such fucking bullshit. Undertaker wins. He wins the Undisputed Championship and then lays out Hogan, because Hogan had had destroyed Undertaker's motorcycle by running into it with a semi. Hogan loved running over things with semis in the spring of 2002. Winter and spring of 2002. He did it with Rock, and then he did it with that, and then he got drug along at one point by Undertaker's motorcycle. He got drug along backstage in full leather and everything, and he was barely going fast enough to, you would have actually had the motorcycle, being stationary, it would have been going faster than Undertaker was driving it. It was such shit. This feud was shit, and Undertaker won. Cool. He did the thing to Hogan, did the thing to his throat, put the chair thing on, because he'd been doing that to a lot of people. And Undertaker would go on to have a pretty damn good Undisputed Championship run, culminating in the Vengeance 2002 match, the three-way that he had with Rock and Kurt Angle. A goddamn incredible match. I may need to watch that match at some point, because it was so fucking good. Maybe I'll wait till July. Let me know what you guys thought of this pay-per-view in the goddamn comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.